Today we're going to look at the upside down method of drawing. And the reason we do this type of drawing is so that we're looking at the line length, the line direction, and the line spacing. The only rule is to keep your drawing upside down. So you're going to leave this upside down, and I'm drawing upside down in my sketchbook. I also want you to think about this as the edge of your picture plane or the edge of your paper. So you are going to slightly enlarge your drawing. We're going to start up here. Looking at this line, it is mostly vertical. It has a slight curve to it. So I'm going to start on the upper left. You can start somewhere else on the top if you'd like, but I think it's easier to start on the upper left. And this line is not quite half of my total length. The line next to it is a parallel line that is also vertical. The line next to that is a 45-degree angle. It can sometimes also be helpful to cite your line and then translate to your paper. This is also parallel. My line here is not quite perfect. This line is at an angle this direction, and then it comes upward. The next line is parallel. So by breaking down all of my lines into their direction, I can be a lot more successful. I'm going to start here by drawing this shape to get the placement in. It's kind of a trapezoid. This line is mostly vertical here. And then the next line is a slight angle. Now let's go back to this so we can see that this line starts about halfway of this total line here. And it also goes up toward the bottom like so. This next line is vertical, but it slightly curves. The next line is vertical, and the next line is curvy. So I'm drawing slowly, but fluidly. And I can see like that maybe needs to be a little bit longer. I'm not erasing. Even though my lines may not be perfect, I'm still drawing confidently. And I'm not going to worry about any kind of adjustments right now. That got a little bit too long. Okay, next, let's go back to this area here. So this line is vertical. And then this next line comes inward just slightly. A trick to drawing a straight line is look at where you're going. Instead of watching yourself kind of draw the line, look at the end point. At the end of this line, we have an oval. And then I'm going to go back and look at this part here. This is about halfway, and it slightly curves. And this line is parallel to that one we just drew. And then we have a vertical line, and you can see that vertical line comes from the second line that we drew. So I'm going to imagine I'm drawing through here. This line curves, it does not curve that much. We're going to go back and fix that. It gets close to this edge, and then it starts to curve around. And then up, we have these two parallel lines here. I can kind of make those few adjustments. I'm going to imagine I'm drawing through this line here to connect this part like that. Next, let's go ahead and get in this area. So this line, we can do the citing. I'm drawing fluidly, meaning I have these solid, confident lines. Even if I'm not feeling super confident, we're gonna pretend like we are. This line is parallel to that one. We have a circle here. And this is not in the right spot exactly, but that's okay. So when I'm doing this, I'm also looking at the relationship between lines. So I can see that this line is pretty horizontal. And then this line curves upward and goes into this line here. Some cat hair on my paper. I'm looking at this area and where it kind of connects here. I'm going to leave that for now and come back and do this. I think that got a little bit long, so I'm going to go back here. Imagine your hand and your eye and your brain is all working together, which they are. I need my brain to be looking carefully. I need my eyes to be looking carefully. I need my brain to be thinking about what I'm drawing. And I need my hand to execute what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking about. I'm really observing this handout. I'm observing what I'm drawing more so than I'm looking at my paper. Trust that your eyes and your brain are telling your hand what to do. Very important relationship. Okay, I'm feeling good about that. Let's go back down here. This is a horizontal line. And it ends just past this kind of V shape. So also look at all of your relationships. How does one line relate to another line? This line is horizontal. This line starts at this intersection and then comes up just slightly. This line also horizontal. And I'm looking at this and noticing like my lines are a little bit off because this and this meet, which would be way down here, right? Let's look at this line. Get your bearings by sighting if you need to. This part is pretty complicated, but again, don't think about what subject you're drawing. Just think about the direction of the line, the length of the line, and the spacing of your line. How does this line relate to the next one, and the next one, and the next one? It may help to kind of use your finger of your non-dominant hand and follow along with what your dominant hand is drawing. Also look at the height. This is lower than this, so we're staying kind of in proportion. It also helps to look at negative space Look at angles. This is way too skinny compared to this, but I can go back and make adjustments later. For now, I'm just going to kind of leave it. Look at the shape. This is an oval. There's a little bit of space here. This is an oval, and there's a little bit of space here. Draw what you're seeing. Don't draw what you think is there. Look at where lines end, how close this line ends compared to this line that I already have. This line here comes through the same line, so I'm looking at those relationships. I have space here, and then I have this, not quite an oval. All right, let's go back to this area. Sometimes I save this part for last and I do this. I've drawn this many times, and each time I kind of take a slightly different path. So if you had another path that you took initially, that is totally fine. Again, if you're not sure about this line, check your angle with your sighting. Like that. This is a circle. My line's got a bit off here. This is where I need to do a little bit of adjusting. And let's look at this part. And let's go back here. So I'm going to sight this angle. And again, I'm going to look at this negative space. Look at where this line ends compared to something else you've already drawn. Solid, confident lines. This is a horizontal line. This one is slightly curving downward toward me, and we have an oval on the end. Okay, I notice that needs to kind of come in more. As I'm drawing this part, I'm looking at, again, the line direction, the line length. I'm also kind of cross-referencing where this line ends compared to something else. And I want to make sure I have enough room here, so this ended up pretty well. And then let's go back over here. And again, I'm cross-referencing this compared to this. It's pretty close. I think this needs to actually, I'm going to make this come up just slightly. It's pretty good. And then look at this angle. And then this one curves inward and it ends here. for this part, look how close these lines are together. Look at this negative space meaning the empty area. This is kind of vertical, a slight curve. Some curves out. Oh, that's smaller. And this area is smaller, so that's looking pretty good. This needs to be adjusted. Okay. Next. Let's add this. This is a vertical line. It's angled. Look at the spacing between this line and this line. Vertical line. Look at the gap in the line. And this could be closer together. It's not quite perfect, but again, it's pretty close. Let's go back and finish off this area. So I'm coming up to here. Let's start here and make this line curve over. This a little longer. And really pay attention to the angle or the degree of curve. So here I'm going to start this line by looking at the negative space. This comes inward. It's going to get really close to my paper. Flatten out just slightly. And then see where it starts to curve compared to something else you've drawn. This is a little tricky to draw on the edge of my sketchbook. And then I'm going to make this whole line as one line for now. So again, really slow down in this area and think about line direction, line spacing, and line length. Let's go to this line here. And we have this kind of circle here. And this line overlaps that circle. In this circle, we have this as a horizontal line. And then this as a line that's kind of curving. And then another short line here. the relationship of these two circles. This one is smaller and it starts a little bit higher up. This one on this side is also smaller, it starts lower down. So this is kind of the placement for my circle. This seems a little bit squished. Maybe I need that to be higher up. Also look at the relationship of the eyes to one another. Oops, eyes. I said the word of a facial feature and I did not mean to say that out loud because I don't want you to be thinking about what you're drawing. I just want you to be thinking about the lines and shapes. I'm a little bit squished for space here. I'm going to bring this down slightly so that I have more space, and actually that makes sense for where this meets this part over here. So this is a line that curves toward me. This line curves that direction. Okay. And we have 3 smaller lines here. And then we have several lines here. I'm also going to erase that tiny part next to the circle because it kind of goes inward if this line is coming outward. Home stretch. I'm looking at line length, line direction, line spacing. We have several little lines around this area here. And then let's finish off here. And again, I'm looking at line direction. This line is not quite horizontal. This shape is kind of a almond shape, comes to a point. after you have the whole image drawn, then we can turn this right side up. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. I know it's not perfect. Like, I know I messed up on this area, but this is an exercise in training your eye and your brain and really slowing down and make those observations. If things are a little bit off, that's okay. But think about what you did well and what you could do better next time. Did your proportions stay fairly accurate? Did you run out of room? Now that you have your image drawn, you can turn it right side up. I'm feeling pretty good about this. I know it's not perfect. Looking at this right side up, I can see I need to go back and kind of like adjust that. My proportions are fairly accurate. Looking at this shoulder here, I did not get that right. I will say too that I'm standing up and looking at this now versus when I was drawing, I was seated and a little bit farther back from my drawing. It's much more helpful to be standing up and looking over your drawing. I hope that you too were successful in your upside down drawing. Also, make sure you number your page and put this in your index.